Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the ZHP Garage, and we are going to be continuing on with the Nova build. We have the LS3 sitting right here in front of us, and the reason that we have it sitting the way it is right now is because we had some audio issues with some of the clips. So we're going to stand right here and we're just going to explain a little bit of what we did. Well, we just started off with where we left off in the last video, and we started taking this apart. So if you just want to get into explaining what we started with.
So we took off the pulley, and the dampener bolt is a stretch bolt, so it's extremely tight. And we don't have a flywheel or a flex plate or anything on here to hold the engine. You know, put the holder on it to keep it from spinning over to loosen up the bolt. So we got ARP bolts for the flywheel. So we just installed 2 of the bolts into the crank, and we use a pry bar to hold the engine from turning over. So we're able to break the bolt loose for the pulley. So we got the bolt broke loose, got it out. We used a puller, pulled the pulley off. Then we removed the display on demand, the variable valve timing. Gains us access to the pulley, the cam sprocket. So we took the oil pan off before we flipped it over. In case there's any residue of oil in there, we didn't have to worry about it going into the engine and leaking back and forth. So before we flipped it, we took the oil pan off, and then we flipped the engine over, and we took the oil pump pickup off, and then we flipped it back over and took off the oil pump and diamond chain and sprocket and all that stuff in the front. And then we're able to break the bolt loose in the center. Again, we had to put the pry bar in to keep the engine from spinning over. To break this is just a single bolt. It was a single bolt cam originally in here. It just has a dowel pin on the cam that aligns it. It just has a single bolt, and this is for the variable cam timing. It's a little this bolt allows oil to come through and puts oil on the different sides of the. There's like a valves in here, and it changes the cam timing. It spins it back and forth. So anyways, so we're able to take that off, and then once we remove the sprocket, we took the timing chain off. Then we used the sprocket, put it back on the camshaft in order to remove the cam. That's how we got the cam out. If you don't have the holder, we're just showing that you could do it with the sprocket. Then we removed the factory tensioner for the timing chain, because we're not using that style. We changed it, so we eliminated the factory tensioner. And then we used a 2-jaw puller to take the oil pump drive and the lower sprocket off. And you can see I used a pair of vice grips to keep the jaws together, because it normally has a crossbar in the puller, but the crank snout was too big a diameter to hold it, so the jaws kept popping off. So that's why we had the vice grips.
And then we're keeping the pistons and rods. Those are staying stock in here, so we're not going to touch those.
Short block, staying all original. So as far as the camshaft is as far as it's going to get tore down. Now it's going back together.
We're going to transition over to right after he finished cleaning off the rest of the block, just to freshen it up and get it prepared for us to put it back together. And we will see you over there right now. Alright, so he did an engine cleanup the same as you saw in a couple of videos ago, where he just got the razor blade and stuff, and he, scraped the rest of the engine. And this thing is gleaming right now. This thing's gonna be sick once we start getting it together. So the first thing we're gonna start with is the camshaft and the, what else?
The active fuel management delete.
So the active fuel management. Delete. Control Alt Delete, because we're not gonna be using that at all. So we're gonna start off with that. Let's get going.
Here's our new cover for our active fuel management delete. Ready to turn and burn. Got O-rings around the oil galleys.
And here's the gleaming engine that I did not show. Even got some shine to it.
And it comes with it's got a breather system built into it. So these bolts are gonna get torqued to 18 foot-pounds. Alright, now we're going to put the new camshaft in it. Alright, so I chose the comp cams hydraulic roller for this thing. And we converted it to this is a 3-bolt. So this one's a 3-bolt. Instead of the old camshaft was a single bolt with just a dowel pin that keeps it from rotating. So we have a dowel pin and 3 bolts, and then we went with the ARP cam bolts, and then we used a double roller time and chain, obviously a 3-bolt, and then this is the front. It's got the cam sensor in the front, so that's what this is here, and then it's got a thrust bearing on the back of the time and chain cam pulley, and then the old one was just friction. There was no bearing there, so it, you know, frees it up a little bit, makes stuff a little happier. So we're gonna go ahead and get the camshaft put in here now. We already cleaned up the front of this and everything. Same way, we're gonna use a sprocket to install it. So we'll go ahead and put the sprocket on first. And being that we have the dowel pin, we only need to put 1 bolt in it to keep everything centered. Gonna run some assembly lube down it. Then you can, once you get it down, you start installing it. Just be careful on the bearings. And it kind of holds it for you. You can finish running it around. And just finish putting it in.
So I gotta ask you, Mr. Master Mechanic, is putting this camshaft in as easy as it looks?
It's pretty easy. In case you were wondering on the specs of the cam, it's a hydraulic roller, an intake 617 lift, the exhaust 624. It's a square port LS3 cam's got a little more duration. So duration, we'll add 50, 231, 247, and a 113 lobe separation. That's the size of the camshaft we're putting in it. We gotta take our cam sprocket back off. We got to put our retainer plate back on. So we're going to reuse it, but we're just going to put some Loctite on these bolts before we put them in. We don't want these coming out. That'd be a bad day. So make sure you put a little lube on this plate because the camshaft rubs on it right here. Assembly lube and a little Loctite on your bolts. The same thing. Run these down. These would be 18 foot-pounds also. So like I said, we went to a double roller, but this one you can adjust your cam timing. You can advance it or retard it. So you can run it straight up, depending on where you put it on the keyway. You can run it straight up, or you can advance it or retard it. So we're just gonna run it straight up. So we're gonna do 0 on the keyway, and then we line up the dot with the sprockets. So we put the 0 on the keyway. And you see we want this forward because the back has a relief that goes around the crankshaft here so that everything lines up. So you need to see the numbers. So 0, and you drive it on. So we need our dot to be straight up. So you could use the old bolt so you can spin the engine around. So this needs to be straight up at 12 o'clock. And then you can see the number 1 piston is the top dead center. So it's easier, being that there's a keyway, you can put a sprocket on in one of the bolts. And if you get the camshaft, see the dot wants to line up with the dot, so you get it close. While the chain's off, you go a hair more. Okay, so our 2 dots are lined up on, so that's top dead center. So now we take our sprocket back off. We'll put a little bit of oil on here, just to help it. And then we're using ARPs, so they don't use Loctite. They use their high temp, or high pressure assembly lubricant.
Hardest part of putting the engine together is getting this out of the packaging.
And they have their own torque specs on the cam. So they want 25 foot-pounds on their cam bolts. So you just want to put it on the threads and under the head. So you just put it on, get it around the head. So it has a film, and then around the threads. So we'll get all three of them prepped. Okay, we take our chain, we put on our sprocket. Okay, and then we have our dot. We pull it up over to the bottom. Okay, so now we're straight lined up. We're lined up with our keyway. Okay, so now we can start our bolts. And the cam's kind of back in the board a little bit because this is what pulls it forward and keeps it centered. It's going to be snug because we're eliminating the guides that was on it before. The chain guides. Tension, and this side was a tensioner and this side was a guide, so we're eliminating that. We're just running a straight chain.
So what changes it doing that compared to how it was from the factory?
It just keeps the timing more accurate because when your RPMs are going up and down a lot, the guides they don't have enough tension on it, so your timing can vary. It's just not as accurate. And if you want to, before you torque it, you can do a quick test. You can spin it over. You can't just do 180 because the camshaft spins at half the speed as the crank. So if you do 180, then it's obviously 180 out. So you got to do 360 degrees. And we're got on 0 the keyway. Our little dot. Do line up with our dot. Right there. Actually went a little too far. So straight up. Piston's at top dead center. So we got the timing on, dead on. So now we're going to torque these 25 foot-pounds. Then you just want to double check from the side, have a look at it, and make sure that the sprockets aren't cocked and everything is straight. Looks good. So now that we have a double roller instead of the single, our oil pump is going to be brought out. This is a mailing timing chain set that comes with the spacers for the oil pump. So this one's going to go here, this is going to go here, and it's going to bring the oil pump out to clear the extra roller of the chain. And it comes with the bolts for the oil pump. So now we're going to put on our drive for the oil pump. So this doesn't matter, it's just driving the oil pump, so we just need to line up the keyway. Okay, it slides on there. That's what drives the oil pump. It comes with these bolts with it's like a smaller head, because when you shim it out, we're gonna have to clearance it because it's gonna bring it out to the timing cover. So we're gonna have to clearance the pump and the cover. It's a high volume, stock pressure oil pump, because we're gonna test fit it, so we're not gonna worry about cleaning it or anything or lubing it. So this just floats in there because to line it up, because you have a little bit of slop. So the pickup's gonna go on the bottom. Okay, so you can use the bolt to come with it. You can use a bolt to line up your adapters. Just do the top on each side. It'll hang when you tilt it. So kind of got to line it up with the gear. We're just going to snug it down. And when you get it close, you can kind of float a little bit. You kind of want to center as much as possible. Okay, now. So we got a new cover. It's a GM cover that deletes the variable cam timing, and it just has the cam sensor in the front is all you have instead of the cover's all buried. Comes with the bolts, comes with a gasket. So what I like to do is take the gasket off because that's how much clearance I want to have between the pump and the cover. So if I know if the cover will go on without the gasket, then I know I have that much thickness clearance between the pump and the cover. So I'll take the gasket off, and let's take a couple of the bolts. You can already see it's not going down, it's hitting the pump. Now we gotta find out where we're hitting it at and clearance it. So you see it's hitting here on the pickup. It's almost all the way down, so not too bad. It's hitting on this side over here. It looks like it's hitting around the edge. So what I like to do is you just take some grease, any sort of marking. You just put it on here, and you can see where it's touching at. So we can see we're hitting over here. So we can either take some off the pump. We can grind some off the pump. That's why you don't want to worry about cleaning the pump yet, because you have to grind on it. So we can take a little off this cover, radius that, and then take some out of this cover here, radius that a little bit, and we gotta get some clearance for this to clear. So here on the oil pump, I had to clearance it where the pickup tube goes in, and then around the edges is radiused it, and then it has this little webbing here I had to cut down to clear the front cover. And on the front cover, I had to just go around and just clearance the inside of it pretty much all the way around. I had to step it down this little boss inside for the clear the timing chain. So now we're going to take the pump apart and get it cleaned up. Any metal shavings or anything out of it. Blow it out. Alright, so we're going to put some lube in here. Pump back in. Looks good. It doesn't matter which way it goes. It's either radius on both sides. It doesn't matter. Okay, if you wanted to make it easier you can leave the cover off. Make it easier to line this up, it doesn't matter. Just line that up with the keyway. I'm going to put just a dab of Loctite on here, nothing crazy. And then don't forget the little spacers. We're going to try to get it pretty centered. It's got a little bit of play, so just try to center it up. And we're going to torque these to 18 foot-pounds also. So now I want to put some lube on the chain. Might have to switch our lube here. You want to go heavy on the pump. Alright, put our cover back on. Put a little dab of Loctite on these also. These are going to torque. It'll probably be like 89 inch-pounds. I'm just going to check them by hand. I'm just going to, get them the feel of it. Alright, so that's all good. These are already torqued. So now we're going to put our cover on. I put the oil pan on here without the gasket on it. That helps align this. So when I put this on there, I'm going to snug a couple bolts in here, and we got to put the pulley on it, and that's going to align everything, because you can get this cover cocked, and you go to tighten it up, you can snap the oil pan. So that's why we have the oil pan on it like this here. See how these bolts they're not tight, so the cover can float a little bit, so you need to lighten it up. Then we're going to take a couple of the pan bolts, and we want to put just snug them down a little bit to line the cover and the pan rail. See how you can move it around? So we don't want to get them tight, you just want to kind of something by hand. I wouldn't even say snug, you just barely bring it down so it touches, and then so now it's down tight to here, so it's aligned side to side, and now we're going to put the pulley in it, and that's going to center it on the crank so it doesn't wear out the crank seal. So now we got to put a pulley on. If you see on the difference of the pulleys, so this is the truck one that we're taking off, and this is one we're going to use. It's like a Corvette spacing. See how much it brings it back? So just bring the pulleys and everything back closer to the engine. So this is what we're going to put on now. It's just a stock dampener. So before I put the pulley on, I got to put the cam sensor back in it. We got to take out when we're grinding. If you want to torque these are like 89 inch-pounds, but you can just do it by hand. Okay, now when we put our seal's dry, so we're going to put a little grease on the hub right here, the dampener. So let's put a film around it so it lubes the seal.
is this exactly?
This is a pulley dampener installer. Unless you want to, you know, beat your dampener on with a sledgehammer. If this was a nice ATI or something dampener, I don't think you want to beat on it with a sledgehammer. So you want to use an installer to pull it on nicely. Just crank it on. There you go, it bottoms out. Another thing the installer saves is your thrust bearings in your crankshaft. It doesn't like getting the abrupt beating. Now we have the pulley aligning the crank seal. We have our pan bolt snug down so it's centered and it's even. Now we can torque the cover bolts. And these are going to be 18 foot-pounds also. And there it is. Got the camshaft in, new oil pump, new pulley, a new cover.
How's it looking?
Looking pretty mean. It's gonna be a nasty machine.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the video here on the ZHP Garage of us working on the LS3 today. In the next video, you can stay tuned. We're gonna do the heads, we're gonna do the lifters, and a few other miscellaneous stuff, just getting it all back together.
It's gonna be good and nice. It's gonna be a bad machine.
You excited for it?
Heck yeah.
I'm excited to see how this thing's gonna run. So don't forget, if you guys are not already, hit the subscribe button down below for, you know, weekly content like this here on the channel. And also to stay along with this Nova build to see the final result, what we're gonna do with it in the next few months.
Where we're gonna take it to?
Yeah, we got a place in mind we're gonna take it to, some event we're gonna take it to. So, you know, don't miss out. Hit the subscribe button, show support to the channel, and
See how it runs.
you can stick around for content like this. So, hope you guys have a great day. That's all for us here at the garage. What do you gotta say?
I'm out.
Peace out.